Robby, what's on your radar today?
Well, Brianna, Chris Cillizza is a former television pundit and political reporter. Beginning in 2005, he blogged about elections for the Washington Post, focusing on lightning-fast political analysis. In 2017, he joined CNN as an on-air commentator, writer, and all-around politics explainer. His superficial punditry, boldly incorrect predictions, and arbitrarily numbered lists earned him many detractors on both the right and the left, and CNN laid him off in 2022. Now, I really do hate to pile on, since the man no longer speaks and writes on behalf of large mainstream media outlet. He is currently writing for Substack. But on Wednesday, he made a claim on X, where he has 600,000 followers, that is completely and instructively wrong. Our story begins with Cillizza observing accurately that there's something mean-spirited about rejoicing in another person's economic misfortune. Specifically, the Los Angeles Times recently laid off 20% of the newsroom, a reflection of the difficult times for many journalistic outlets. Conservatives now perceive that the media is an incredibly hostile enemy, and many on the right are positively giddy at the prospect of journalists facing unemployment. As an industry, the media does in fact have a lot of problems, including in some cases biases against non-liberal perspectives that create blind spots. But many individual reporters, editors, and entire newsrooms are doing important work. That work often involves shining a spotlight on local issues, calling attention to waste, fraud, and abuse, and investigating corrupt government figures. As the Washington Examiner's Tim Carney put it, there's no one who is better served by shrinking newspapers than crooked politicians. And in any case, even if the media landscape is frequently toxic, look, it's just gratuitously cruel to champion the firings of people. Now, one X-user responded to Cillizza with a statement of this: zero sympathy because many journalists had themselves applauded layoffs when the victims were unvaccinated and outcompeted blue-collar workers. Now, this X-user claimed that journalists had derisively advised these workers to obtain new skills, i.e. learn to code. Maybe you've heard that phrase before. Cillizza responded, "It just didn't happen. And again, no journalist said learn to code, and neither did Biden." End quote. So set aside whether the first part of that is true. The second part is obviously patently false. At a 2019 campaign rally in New Hampshire, then-candidate Joe Biden described the possibility of coal miners transitioning to more environmentally friendly labor, saying, quote, "Anybody who can go down 3,000 feet in a mine can sure as hell learn to program as well." And then he said it again. His remarks were reported by the Washington Post's David Weigel and also by The Hill, this publication. The Hill made note of the job retraining aspects of Biden's platform. Cillizza's tweet, or his X, or whatever we're calling them now, is wrong on its face. Reporters and pundits do, in fact, get things wrong all the time. He's not guilty of some unique transgression. It's not unforgivable. But I think it's telling that almost 24 hours after Cillizza first penned that tweet, it was still up. Now, he posted multiple times since then. Hard to believe he hasn't seen any of the numerous comments correcting him, since he seems to be the kind of person who does, in fact, read the replies. But there's something else notable about this extremely wrong tweet, and that's the real reason I wanted to specially call it out and discuss it. No misinformation experts or fact-checking organizations are springing into action to save social media from the threat of this clearly incorrect claim, yet it has been corrected, in some sense, not by the self-proclaimed experts, but by the X community, specifically Community Notes, the platform's crowdsourced fact-checking system. Community Notes, which was formerly called Birdwatch, actually predates the Elon Musk acquisition of Twitter, though Musk is himself a big supporter of this feature. It allows users to add a contextualizing statement to the bottom of a tweet, and other users can rate the accuracy and helpfulness of that note. Now, it's not a perfect system, doesn't mean that the platform is going to be totally free of false information, but letting users make such determinations has a proven track record of success in other scenarios. Consider Wikipedia, which certainly has its detractors, but generally functions as a useful compendium for largely accurate information. Again, not perfect, but pretty good. Now contrast the Twitter X approach with the one favored by Facebook, which has deputized third-party activist organizations to do the fact-checking on the platform. This has frequently resulted in wrongful fact-checks of my own articles. In December 2021, Facebook labeled something I had written for Reason magazine as, quote, false information checked by independent fact-checkers. So according to this label, I had wrongly claimed that masking school children didn't work. Just one problem with that. I never said such a thing. I had, in fact, merely made note of an Atlantic article by David Zweig, who's on our show frequently, that called into the question the validity of a scientific study that found in favor of mask mandates in schools. Now, the Atlantic article itself had received no Facebook fact check, even though my version made the exact same claims as that version. So Facebook eventually conceded that I was right, removed that inaccurate label. So perhaps the platform needs to hire fact-checkers to fact-check the fact-checkers. Better yet, could try something along the lines of Community Notes, my new favorite feature.
Yeah, I think that Community Notes has done some great things. I would push back and say that it's not perfect, and that especially because a tweet going high profile in a certain kind of ideological section of the site can cause there to be a really ideological bias to the Community Notes as well, right? So if Elon Musk decides to quote tweet something and say, hey, Community Notes this, or as has happened to him, he doesn't like the Community Notes, and tries to influence, hey, what's going on here? This Community Notes is wrong. Then you can get a battle that is less reflective on what an organic community might vote democratically is the more correct answer, but whether or not the size of one's platform can influence how many Community Notes from a given community, how many comments are actually made to influence what the note says. That being said, I think the important part here is that nobody is perfect. The idea that there is some objective arbitrator who, because of their credentialism or their status at a various magazine, knows the truth more than other people, is I think what many folks bristle at when they see the misinformation judges elect themselves into these spaces. I do think it's a little bit different, though, from a critique of media more broadly. Mike, you're not wrong that there are biased tastemakers at various news publications and institutions. You're also not wrong that there are many individuals who are doing their best to report the news in a way that is crucial to our ability to sit here and be pundits. And there is a real asymmetry with how much money and support newsrooms are putting behind punditry as opposed to people who are actually doing straight news reporting. Straight news reporting is obviously not unbiased. People decide what they're going to look for the same way your thesis is biased by the question you ask in the first instance. But they do tend to deal more in the realm of facts and get the primary evidence that is so necessary for the rest of us to come up with the opinions that we have. And so I think the critique that I would have of media is that, yes, politicians benefit from shrinking newsrooms, but who is causing them to shrink in this way? Are we at all concerned that the most rich and powerful people in our society have routinely purchased media outlets and biased and influenced the content that's within the pages of those outlets to benefit them? Are we not concerned that we might not get honest, straightforward news about labor issues or about what's going on with Amazon because the owner of Amazon is also the owner of the Washington Post? Might we be concerned that Elon Musk might have a lot of generosity in allowing free speech to happen on Twitter in one context, but when it comes to something that involves him, like the Elon Jets account, or whether it has to do with a labor issue that might affect one of his companies, or if it has to do with some court litigation that might negatively affect him, things might not flow as freely. Or him expressing discontent with what do you call the Substack, not wanting Substack links to be posted on Twitter because it was a competitor company. You know, so I agree that there's a critique here, but I would say that as always, it's about power, influence, and money being concentrated at the top and negatively biasing our newsrooms, and we have to have a conversation about how to get around that. And I know that we differ on this. I think that there's room for a conversation about public funding and other kind of revenue sources that'll make it so determined, so necessary to have rich individuals with their own biases in such key positions at these outlets.
Fair points. Let us know what you think about the state of the media industry, and we'll have more Rising right after this.